one of the things I love about Kobe is he has the information, we investigate the information, but I slow him down and stop him because I want you to understand, don't blame Trippy Congo for some of the craziness that is going on, because a lot of the teeth that the president of the city council had was snatched from him. This is Dr. Curry.
This is Kobe Owens.
And welcome to The Source. This week have been interesting in that we have not really experienced a whole lot of murders in the city and things of that nature, but we're running into a really serious epidemic with car and automobile crashes within the state of Delaware, especially down here in Wilmington as well as in Newcastle County. I've heard about two on 495 and 95. What do you think is going on with these automobile accidents?
Yeah, so one was caused, it was a police chase going on, and the young 28-year-old drove into the back of a 51-year-old's truck, and from his injuries, he passed away at the hospital later on. But we've really seen a spike in motor vehicle deaths. This is by far this past weekend was the most deadly weekend when it comes to those we've lost due to accidents. We had 5 motorcyclists killed, and a 14-year-old was killed as well, too, a pedestrian walking across the street on top of these 2 incidents as well, too. So it is... It feels as though because we took cars off the road in 2020, everyone was stuck in the house, people may have forgot how to drive safely. So, you know, I think people need to be more aware. People need to put down their phones and pay attention to the road, pay attention to what's going on in front of them, because time and time again, it seems as though over these last 10 months, we've heard a lot about accidents up and down the state, whether it's on 495, 95, Route 1, Route 7, all over the state.
Right. And I was wondering, you know, I used to see police officers on the side of the road to try to deter some of the fast driving, or even if people are on their phones, they then become cognizant of the fact that they need to pay attention to the road. But it could be just me. I don't want to take this as a scientific proof or fact, but it seems like I don't see as many police officers on the road anymore, or do you see more of them? Because, you know, you're out more than I am.
Not more on an open road, but definitely in the city, I see more cops. Up, you know, the Claymont area, I see a bunch of cops sitting out there all the time. But when I head down to Dover, I see less cops. When I head down 13, I really don't see that many cops anymore. So I don't know what's changed, if it's a different strategy or something, but I don't see them as much on the road anymore.
Yeah, but I can buy your belief in that is that we've been in house for a whole 12 to 18 months, and we may have forgot how to drive, how to not multitask, because what happened often is that people are multitasking and they're running right into the back of people. One of the accidents was the police were chasing or trying to apprehend someone, but a lot of times it's that people just decide, I've got to get to where I got to go and I got to get there now, and not paying attention to the roads.
And the other incident was a 69-year-old woman who she was in the left lane and pulled out in front of an Altima who was going through a red light. So again, just paying attention, making sure you're stopping at red lights, and when you do have the green light, give it a few seconds before you move forward.
Well, you know, and speaking of that, since you brought up about the 69-year-old woman who just pulled out into the traffic, you know, I do think that there needs to be some look at of us being certified. All too often, I think we passed the driver's test, and every year we just go get whatever it be 3 years, 4 years, we get our license renewed. But then there are some changes that occurs in our lives, and as these changes occurs in our lives, we need to make sure that it reflects even our ability to drive. Because some person, even though 69 is not an old person,
Right.
there may be some issues going on with memory lapse. There may be some issues going on with paying attention or understanding the signs or whatever. Something probably needs to happen in the legislation level to make sure that our license are renewed with more than just, okay, it's your birthday, it's time for a new license.
No, I would agree on that. And just being honest, between the different generations and within 5 years, what my cousins being taught right now in driver ed is different from what I was taught, right? Well, it's maybe like 8 years now.
Yeah, you're getting
8,
old.
9 years. But it's they're teaching different tactics. They're teaching different rules. And I think everyone can use a refresher every now and then.
Right.
Just to make sure you're up to date on how you're supposed to be driving on the road.
Yeah, so we're going to continue to follow that, and if by some chance some information comes up, we will certainly share with you, our audience, but we do want you to be safe, and please be mindful of those who are on the road with you, and try to leave out a little bit earlier, because I do know when it rains in the state of Delaware, it seems like we're closing down the place because people just don't know how to drive in the rain. But also in the local news, Dover High School experienced a lockdown last Tuesday, and basically a student, a 16-year-old, was found with a pistol. No one got hurt. They locked the school down, but it seems like this whole school violence, this whole violence piece, it keeps surfacing. I'm glad they were able to find that one, but I just don't know how to even approach to deal with that.
Yeah, so the student was arrested and charged with bringing a firearm into a school zone. The school resource officer got the information that someone potentially had a gun on campus. They locked the school down, and they said in about less than 10 minutes they were able to locate the student, and when they searched him, they did find the gun. Now, two things here. One, that could have been really bad.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't say what the mental state of the student was. Right. It doesn't say why they brought the gun in. But having a gun on a premise, anything could happen. Absolutely. Whether it's the person who actually brought it in, or it could be someone else finds the gun and they're having a bad day. And that could lead to others getting hurt or worse, killed. We have seen a spike in school gun violence, except for 2020. Why is that? Because everyone was home on Zoom. And I think really since Parkland in 2018, we've seen more awareness to it. We've seen people try to do more preventative gun laws to make sure youth don't have easy access to these guns. And I bring up Parkland because the trial's going on right now with the murderer, and that was very high.
Yes.
What has happened throughout this nation when speaking to some of these the people who commit the violence in the schools? A lot of them have said they've done it for glorification.
Right.
They'll be in the history books forever. Whereas you have the shooter down at Parkland who pled guilty to all 34 counts. Right. And he says he's sorry and regrets what he did, and that it wasn't what he thought it was going to be like.
Wow.
He thought he was going to get fame.
Right.
Was another aspect to, of course, he was having some mental issues, but he thought he was going to have that fame and celebrity. You had a lot of people repeat that at school shootings all across America. And again, I don't know why this child decided to bring a gun to the school, but it's an issue. It's an issue for the other students. It's an issue for the faculty. And we have to do a better job of making sure they're safe here in Delaware.
Right. Yeah, and I was thinking, the first question I asked was, what is the protocol for Dover High? Is the protocol where they have to go through metal detectors and things of that nature? And if that is true, then how did the child get the gun into the school? While I will give hats off to the officer, the resource officer, who certainly heard the information, took it serious, and reacted appropriately. I give him credit, and we want to, say congratulations on a job well done. But how did the child? I mean, if the protocol is metal detectors, you have to be searched before you come in. And I don't know the protocol. We will find that out. Then how was it breached if that is the protocol? Secondly, I think that we need to talk about home life too. This young man's life, he now have a record, you know, and what's going on in the community of which he comes from, where he's emboldened to carry around a pistol. Is something going on? Is he in a gang? We need to know more. We shouldn't just see the news and say, oh, there was a attempted, somebody brought a gun to school. That we need to get into it, because our communities suffer from the lack of resources. We suffer from a lot of different areas. And what we have to make sure we're doing constantly as people who are reporting this news, as well as people who are leaders in the community, is say, look, we don't want any of our children lost. Right. So this young man is a child, 16 years old. But yes, I know 16-year-olds are killing people. Yes, I know. But how do we, now that we've gotten this one and we're safe, what are some of the adding contributors, is what I was asking.
I agree with you there. Now, Dover police did say they believe he didn't intend to use it. Right, I did see that. Which is always good, which means there's another reason he feels as though he needs to carry this weapon. So getting more into that investigation and seeing what comes out of it is going to be key. And I think also making sure you check in on the other students. Usually in these incidents, it's never just one child. Someone else is having the same issues. Someone else has talked to the student that may know information. Whoever gave the information over, I think them also, because that's very bold and brave to do, to have the courage to go to the RSO and ask, for help, or SRO. So.
And the person who did go, congratulations to that person.
Right. Yep.
And I hope that person is still protected. This person is safeguarded where no one will ever find out who it was.
Correct.
But congratulations to that person. And for those of you who are watching us, if we have loved ones, whether it be our grandchildren, whether it be our nephews and nieces, whether it be whomever, who you know that may inflict violence on someone else, it's going to be important that you speak up and that you say something as well. All too often we wait until there's a funeral or wait till something really horrible has occurred before we decide that we're going to speak up and share. We don't want anyone to be lost. We don't want anyone to die. We don't want anyone to be hurt or harmed. We want everyone to be safe. And school is the place where we form and develop our young people. And when I heard of this article, I decided that was something we needed to talk about today, because we want every person to feel safe when they are being educated. They can take all sorts of things from us, but the education that we obtain is very important. Is there anything else you wanted to share on that?
Yeah, and just, on the topic of gun violence, and if, you have someone in your family, Delaware in 2018 passed red flag laws, and red flag laws give the ability for law enforcement to come in, put a 72-hour hold on the guns if it's legal guns. If you assume that someone in the household or the owner of the gun, period, is intent on committing harm to themselves or others. And that's just another tool that's out there that you can reach out to the local department, state police, and then you go to JP court. So that's just another law out there that most people didn't know that that could help in situations like this.
Okay. So we're going to definitely take a break, and there's a couple of commercials we want to give to you. We'll be right back. And we're back. Well, now we're going to turn our attention more towards the national news and things that we are hearing what's going on. And I just want to take a moment to say to the Powell family, Colin Powell's family, that you have our most sincere sympathy as you do dealing with this transition. A giant man, a great man, a man who stood taller in his stocking feet than most other men do on stilts. And what was honorable about this gentleman who really tried to do the right thing is during the time when Barack Obama ran for president, and it wasn't popular for any Republican to endorse the black man, but he made a statement. Not only did he endorse Barack Obama, but he made a statement when they asked him, do you believe that Barack Obama is a Muslim? He said, no, he is not a Muslim, but what would be so wrong if he was a Muslim? Because there are children who are Americans who are Muslims, and that they should always believe that they could one day be the president of the United States. That just floored me. It made me, I liked him the more because he was a man of substance.
Again, he has a very long history, a lot of accomplishments, and among them is being the former Joint Chief of Staff for the military, but also being the first black Secretary of State under the Bush administration, where he was very much involved with the invasion in Iraq and everything, but also just what that meant for our community. And then, he did break with the Republican Party. He broke and endorsed Obama. He also endorsed Biden over Trump. And, that has led to a lot of conflict between those two.
But before you go there, let me just say this to you. You're right. It led to a lot of conflict, but it did not lead to conflict when it wasn't about Trump.
Right.
Because when he broke with Obama, no, Trump may have liked it, but he wasn't in the spotlight. But now that he's in the spotlight, what he said about Colin Powell was just outright egregious and inhumane.
Yeah. And, the full statement that the former president put out was, it's wonderful to see Colin Powell, who made a big mistakes in Iraq and famously so-called weapons of mass destruction, be treated in death so beautifully by fake news media. I hope that happens to me someday. He was a classic rhino, Republican in name only, even if being the first to attack other Republicans, he made plenty of mistakes, and anyway, may he rest in peace.
Unbelievable.
That's what he chose.
What a dark soul.
On the day that he passes away, and he had a bunch of health issues leading up to his death. He was 84 years old. He did die due to complications to COVID, but he was fully vaccinated. Both him and his wife had tested positive 2 Mondays ago, and they were being treated at Walter Reed down in D.C., Virginia, Maryland, in the D.C. area. But he had also dealt with blood cancer. He had dealt with, I think he also had colon cancer as well, too, and he had early onset Parkinson's disease. That's right. So, and I think he was just diagnosed with that last year. Right. So he had some health issues, which made him more susceptible to the COVID virus, and he succumbed to that on last week.
Yeah, but and I like you so much, Kobe, because you made sure we knew those great things about him, and he was such a giant. I'm stuck on Donald Trump, which we shouldn't even say his name on our show, but what a horrible, horrific soul. I remember he did that to McCain.
Yes.
He did that to many. If you do not agree with him, you are to be penalized. And for him to talk about the mistakes, one thing I give Colin Powell credit for, he admitted to his mistakes. Even when the Iran situation occurred, he admitted to his mistakes, because that's what a real man does. But for him to say he likes the way the fake left-right media, whatever the phrase is to speak to who he is.
Right.
He's not a human.
No, and anyone who's ever disagreed, you're fake, you're uneducated. He knows more than the generals. He's the smartest man on earth, which is just not true, to be honest. And the fact that he loves attacking people who are no longer here just shows how big of a coward he really is.
Yeah, well,
Because that's really someone who cannot stand up to him anymore. He did it when, like you said, when McCain died, when Bush, the father, when he died, when the mother died. So he has a long record of attacking people when they die. And to say that he wishes he is treated the same way, you're treated based on your legacy.
yeah.
Whether it's your legacy while in office or legacy once you're out of office.
Right.
And I could tell you his track record of both being in office and out of office has not been good.
At all.
And is still lifting up the voices of white supremacists, lifting up xenophobic and racism as his brand to bring people together, right? And the people he wants to bring together are people that look like him.
Yeah.
So no, he will not be remembered in a good light. He will be remembered as one of the worst presidents.
Absolutely.
It was kind of hard to think that you could get worse than George Bush in this modern era, but I guess George Bush is kind of happy that Trump got elected.
Yeah.
He's no longer the worst in the modern era. So, you know, as things are still recovering from that, his presidency's going to have an effect for decades.
Yeah.
And not just policy-wise, the rhetoric that was able to grow and come to the forefront again in America is still having an effect today.
Yeah, and I think also, I'll tell you who will celebrate with balloons and with horns, and that is the Republican Party if he was to die. Because I've never seen a group of people who are as educated, who are as brilliant, who really believe. Now, I know I'm a Democrat registered one, definitely. I disagree with some of our policies too, but the Republicans are noted as being the lovers of the men in blue. They're lovers of order, and for him to come in and run roughshod over them to the level that he has, maybe this is why he believes he's the smartest man on earth.
Yeah, so I mean, he said it in an interview years ago that if he ever ran, he would run as a Republican because it's easy to manipulate them. But if you look at what is happening on the national all the way down to our local level, you have people who for years have been in the Senate or in office who have worked across the aisle, come to compromise on things, work for solutions that better their community while still holding true to their Republican values.
Right.
In 2016, that all changed. It's Trump's way or the highway.
Period.
And, you know, look at 2020. Look at how, you know, so many senators and members of the House feel as though they have to deny what really happened on January 6th. You've had people go to the floor in the well of the House and the Senate floor and say January 6th was peaceful. That January 6th, yes, they entered the building, but it's a big lie that they came in stampeding and rioting. The officers opened the door for them. Okay, yeah, that's true, because that's illegal. But also, did you not see that they had a noose out there? They broke barriers, they killed officers, they stole federal documents, they stole laptops, paperwork. You just can't go barge into the Speaker of the House's office.
Absolutely.
You have people there saying they are looking for members of Congress to kill.
Yeah.
Now, luckily, they didn't find anyone.
Yes.
So we don't have to speculate what really would have happened if they did.
That's right.
But at one point, you can't say you back the blue and then you allow your supporters to kill cops.
Absolutely.
You can't say you weren't scared because it was white supremacists, but if it was Black Lives Matter, you would have been scared.
Yeah.
So that just shows, Ron Johnson from Wisconsin.
Absolutely.
That just shows that your true colors is you're a racist.
Absolutely.
So why, me being a black man from Delaware, I would hope my senators would never support anything you do. Because if that's your thinking already, well, any legislation you're writing to benefit white people and go against me.
Absolutely.
And when you vote, even though you're from Wisconsin, you still vote on stuff that affects the whole nation.
Right, because they vote in interest.
Right.
And if the interest is that the white supremacist agenda, that's what they run with. And I think that's one of the problems. And, you know, while we're still talking about this, and we certainly was starting off talking about Colin Powell, which we love him and we appreciate what he did for us, but it still speaks to Donald Trump. His mindset and how he is, his thinking is just off. Mitch McConnell sends out this notice saying, hey, I wish that he responds to Donald Trump. You know, there's a video we're going to show you in just a second, but he responds to Donald Trump's video where he's basically saying that all that Mitch McConnell can do is raise money and give it to senators. Hold it right there. We'll be right back. Here it is.
Trump taking aim, lashing out. You've seen this before. He's going after Democrats, the media, and former allies like Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell. He urged Republicans to unite against President Biden's economic agenda.
That's right. There were grievances and there were lies, some of them about the 2020 election, but also a moment of honesty. Trump admitting that he's frustrated that McConnell didn't participate in his attempted coup.
Mitch McConnell didn't have the courage to challenge the election. He's only a leader because he raises a lot of money and he gives it to senators. That's the only thing he's got. That's his only form of leadership. He should have challenged the election.
I would have thought, after what he just said, I would have thought that Mitch McConnell would have said, hold it, no, whatever. Instead, he says, I wish he would stop litigating the 2020 election and move forward and look at Biden's agenda so that we could attack it. He let this man spit on him, and he did nothing.
Well, I mean, they all do. You saw Ted Cruz pretty much become his lapdog after, you know, one, he assaulted Ted Cruz, but also he assaulted his family.
Yeah, his wife.
Right? You see this happen over and over with Mitch McConnell. As Trump just attacks him. Now, look, do I like Mitch McConnell's policies? Absolutely not. But I will give him credit. He is one of the best majority leaders, if not the best ever. Just looking at the tactics he knows the rules, and he knows how to manipulate them for his advantage and for his caucus. If you also look at it, very rarely does his caucus break with him.
Absolutely.
Democrats break more often than McConnell's people do. During the first few years of the Trump administration, you regularly saw up to maybe 6 or 7 Democratic senators break with our caucus to vote with the Republicans.
Absolutely.
And we were already in a minority with 2 seats down. You saw Bill Nelson from Florida. You saw Heidi Heitkamp from North Dakota. You saw Joe Donnelly from Indiana. And you just saw all these. And John Tester and Mitch McConnell, during that next session, they picked up 2 seats. So now it was a 54 to 46 majority. You saw Democratic senators independent senator, but caucuses with the Democrat, August King from Maine, vote with them more. You saw Kristen Sinema vote with the Trump administration in her first year there. You still saw Manchin. After that election, you saw John Tester kind of walk things back. Now he's saying, oh, whoa. Things are getting a little too out of control now. I can't keep voting for this. But that's when you started seeing the change. Now we have a 50-50 split. McConnell is still, even though he's in a minority, he is still very powerful. And he's still able to have and work with people like Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema more so than with August King or the other ones. They're staying together. He is still able to bring Democratic votes onto his side to win his agenda. Even
though the agenda that's on the table will help the people that are in the majority.
Correct.
And it's going to harm us really, really much. I just hope that Mitch McConnell and the Republicans realize that we need 2 parties in order for democracy to really reign strong. And what's happening right now, we only have 1 party and Trump. And that's literally how it is. But I want to continue on even with Elizabeth Cheney, because I wanted to just say that, you know, over this week, you know, when her comments, both of them, was very powerful and impactful, trying to plead with her colleagues, hey, we know who we are. We should not allow the detriment of this person overtake us. You need to remember our tenets, what we believe, and they just scared. She even said that. She said, many of you have said, I just want to keep my head down. What a coward group.
Yeah, and I mean, she points to Bob Corker, who was a senator from Tennessee. She points to Jeff Flake, who was a senator from Arizona. Both of those two decided to stand up to Trump on a few issues, not on everything. And he pretty much ended their careers. In the House, 16 people voted, 16 voted for impeachment.
Right.
And Trump is going after them.
Really strong.
He has found candidates to all run against them, endorse them. But what we're seeing is all the ones that are running again, and I think it's 10 that are still running, all of them have had strong fundraising. They've out-fundraised the former president's endorsees, and they're doing good. Now, it's going to come down to Election Day. How will the base feel? Liz has definitely been the biggest. She was the number 3 in the House. They kicked her out of leadership, all because she said, I'm not going to lie for Trump.
Right.
And you've seen the other Republican presidents, the Bush family, of course, Cheney, her dad, have been helping her fundraise, and she is having just the last 2 quarters have been amazing fundraising for her and for those Republicans who stood up to Trump.
Yeah, but even with the problem is going to be his people go out and vote. We got to make sure they got to make sure that they get the people out there to vote, because if they can break this cycle, it'll give some people some strength to believe that if I go against them, I can still come out of this.
Exactly.
I can come out stronger, and that's what we're waiting for to see. Because I want democracy to reign. There are things in the Democratic Party I agree with 100% and very strong on. There are some things I do not. But it's not that I want to leave and become a Republican because I disagree with some of the tenets of the Democratic Party, but it's more or less understanding that when you have 2 different opposing thoughts on how democracy should reign, and they are healthy for the people that then it's important. Right now, racism and bigotry and all this stuff that's going on through that Republican Party is just unbelievable and unacceptable. And as we continue on in this time that we're doing our broadcast, I just wanted to bring up Elizabeth Cheney, because she is becoming a hero, and a hero because we have not seen anybody stand up to him. And we also can talk about the other brother. Who's right there with him, Adam Kinzinger.
Yes.
We want to say to him as well, congratulations. You're doing what's right, and it's a shame that we have to congratulate somebody for doing what is right, but it is unbelievable how all of these senators and congressmen are just knuckling down and will not do anything to harm that man.
And I agree. And one of the things that you're dealing with also right now is redistricting. Adams in Illinois, Democrats are in control there. They've introduced maps that pretty much get rid of his district. I think he is going to announce he's retiring very soon, and probably look to run maybe for governor or U.S. Senate. But he is one of the ones who probably won't be returning because he just doesn't want to deal with a tough election cycle, and going to look to see where he can move.
So if there's going to be more Democrats, that means that Republican Congress seat will then be filled by a Democrat?
Yeah, so the way they're doing the maps right now, Illinois is going from, they're dropping 1 representative.
Okay.
So they drop down to 15 representatives. And what they're they're dropping down to 17 representatives from 18. And what they're also trying to do, they send 5 right now. So it's a 13-5 map. All 3 of the Democratic maps that have been introduced take that down to a 14-3, or it takes it down to a 16-2, or 15-2 map. So most likely 3 of those Republicans won't be returning from that state.
I got you. We'll be right back.
I'm getting vaccinated against COVID-19. Yes, there could be some short-term side effects from the vaccine, but they go away in a day or 2. Those are signs that my body's building protection. It's worth it to avoid serious problems from COVID-19 disease.
And we're back. Now we're going to turn our attention. We had an opportunity to talk about the local news as well as the national news, but now we want to turn our attention to this new segment of our show, which is called Silent Storm. And what we really want to do with this section of the show is to just share quietly, without there being an angry black man or angry black woman, what is going on, and let's start building this movement to be able to respond appropriately when the time comes. We shared with you last week that we were going to bring up, we did put on the screen all of the city council members. We gave you what districts they're in. We share with you, whether they're Republican or whether they are Democrat, whether they're white, black, Latino. And this week, we were going to share the legislation part of what they've been doing thus far as it relates to aligning themselves with the mayor, because there was some rumor that he has 7 votes in his pocket. And we wanted you to be able to see who are 100% in or 80, 90% in line with whatever the mayor wants. Well, we weren't able to get all the information, and what we promised we would never do is to fudge or to give you misinformation. We only want to give you facts. So while we're finishing up that information, I just want to report that we don't have it today. We will have it, and we will bring it to the front. But Kobe, just for a short moment of this segment, since we don't have that information, there is some investigative work that my team is doing, and you may not know these answers, but we're doing some investigative work because we found out over the years there were some traditional things that the city council president did. No one ever challenged it. It was done through all administrations, but now when you don't have a yes mammy in and he's not a part of the clique or the crew, there was some legislation done that changed all of his powers, where now it appears that he is just a ceremonial leader. And things such as, well, I'll stop there for a second and just allow you to add in, but we're going to get to all the details next week.
Yeah, so at the beginning of each session, all the new members are sworn in and returning members are sworn in for their next 4 years, hopefully, and they vote on a few things. So they vote on staff, they vote on rules, and that is what is going to be set for the next 4 years. Now, it only takes a simple majority to vote on those, but to change a rule, it's a 9-vote majority, right? So when you look at things such as at the beginning of this session, the council president had introduced his own, what council presidents do, a part of it is assign people to committees. There was a opposing a fraction of city council who introduced their own assignments, which changed some major positions. So it changed who was in charge of public safety committee. It changed who was in charge of the finance committee to people who are more supportive of the mayor. You look at the city council president usually has the discretion to appoint people to work for city council. The opposing fraction also introduced competing resolutions that had different people named to chief of staff and other positions.
Now, before you go any further, because I know our viewing audience is listening, and I want to make sure that they are clearly hearing what we're sharing. So you're saying that there was normally, for the tradition has been that the city council president, for an example, will say, these are the individuals who will be in charge of these committees.
Yes.
But because there was an opposing 1 or 2 members of council, they came together and said, we need to make sure we have 7 votes, and this is who he has to accept because it has to be voted upon.
Correct.
So he may have submitted his group. That was voted down, but what was voted up was what this opposing group had.
Right.
I want that vote too, because that's going to be important when we do ours.
1, 2, and 3.
We're going to make sure we show the community how the politics roll. One of the things I love about Kobe is he has the information, we investigate the information, but I slow him down and stop him because I want you to understand, don't blame Trippy Congo for some of the craziness that is going on, because a lot of the teeth that the president of the city council had was snatched from him. because of a segment who really want to control the whole group. It's not about how many black faces you have on a council. It's about where the power is and who can influence. So when you're hearing Kobe speak, just know that it was an opposing group who said, nah, we don't care what you have to say, Mr. Trippy. We want to make sure this happens so that it can support a certain agenda. I'm sorry for cutting you off.
Yeah, no, and the final point is they changed who's in charge of setting the agenda. So
the president of city council doesn't set the agenda?
no, so originally it went to the city clerk, and then they moved it to the chief of staff sets the agenda.
And who hires, so now who sets what goes on the city council agenda is the chief of staff for the city council?
Yes.
Okay. In tradition, the president of city council hired the chief of staff.
Correct.
Who now hires the chief of staff?
So it goes through a whole interview process, and then the whole council votes on it.
Unbelievable. So that means there's no loyalty to Trippy. I'm just using Trippy Congo's name because he is there, and I don't want people to treat him wrong because he has no authority to do certain things. So he has no one he can say that's loyal to him to make sure his agenda gets pushed.
Well, he has some workers. There's a lot of workers that have been there for a few years and decades, actually, that have worked with him when he was a district councilman and now. But yeah, so what happens now is each person who's hired on needs 7 votes. And that doesn't necessarily mean they're loyal to different people. It just means they need 7 votes instead of getting appointed by the president like they used to. Now, how did this all get on the agenda for the first meeting, right?
Okay.
So the rule is the first agenda is set by the former council president or the council president, whoever's in charge, the presiding officer of the last council, the last session.
Wow.
Trippy beat that person.
Well, you mean Hanifa Shabazz?
Yes.
Are you afraid to say her name?
Oh, no, I'm
Oh,
not.
okay. So you're saying that the person he defeated
Yes.
is the one who set the agenda
Right.
for what is to happen when all this occurred?
Correct.
I'm
so
sorry.
when Trippy introduced his resolutions for his staff, committees, and staff committees and I forget the last one now. Oh, rules. She has to take consideration that, but she was able to take the opposing ones and put them on the agenda first. Once they're voted on and approved, then the later resolutions become obsolete now because they've already been voted on and approved.
Wow.
So that's how that situation
Listen to the dirtiness of this politics.
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, it takes 9 votes to overturn a decision.
Correct.
But if you have 7 people who are gun-ho on what they want, they don't care about, because they know they're not going to get 9 votes. Unacceptable. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So that's how this whole situation took place on January the 5th, 2021, when the new council was sworn in. The agenda was set by Hanifa Shabazz, who allowed this to happen. So it pretty much stripped all the power away. And again, Trippy, being the person he is, he's going to make anything work. He's a very kind person, big-hearted person, and he tries to work with everyone. And I think that's why so many people liked him, and that's why he was able to win across the city. He won 7 out of the 8 districts.
You know, and there's one district he didn't win, and that's the district that's running the whole city.
Yes.
And that's the problem. There was one district he didn't win, and that district was supposed to go for the other candidate, and the other candidate didn't win, but it's running the whole city. And I agree with you. Trippy is a very, very kind person. I've never had a crossword with him, and I feel bad right now because those of you who are watching us don't really get to hear all of this. You hear about it through rumors, but you don't want to believe it. But the silent storm segment of this show is going to focus on city council and the mayor's office. All too often, it's been whether or not Pastor Curry is up there screaming and hollering, or this angry black person, or this person is bringing a protest. They criticize people like Pastor D and others. But we're going to be educated about this. We're going to bring you facts. And we're going to deal with the hidden hand of racism, the hidden hand, because there's one council member. This is not Kobe speaking. This is Dr. Curry speaking. There's one council member who have been there for a little while. And most of you black people are voting for that one council member who's behind 90% of this. You will see it as we unveil things. We're going to make sure you see pictures. We're going to make sure that you see what we're doing, because we can't be effective if we're not giving you the straight up truth. Stop allowing them to give you fish sandwiches. Either teach us to fish or keep your fish sandwiches. James Brown, my favorite line. He say, I don't want nobody to do nothing for me. Just open the door and I'll get it myself. That's what's needed. So thank you for the intro. But what we're going to do week after week, and it might turn that this show might become more of the silent storm than a lot of other issues that we discuss. But I want to do it slow. I want to do it educationally. And I want to make sure that you don't see it as some agenda I have. Because a lot of people have tried to harm me or Kobe and others who just want to give a voice to let you see and uncover the hidden racism, sexism, misogyny, all that. They just want you to, we want you to see where it's coming from and let you decide. But it all starts with you voting. We'll be right back.
Hey, Delaware and E. Zion Fair Baptist Church, it's that time, yes, for the E. Zion Fair Baptist Church to honor and give tribute to our own elder, Jay Codwell. He is a trendsetter, torch bearer, and trailblazer of Delaware for quartet gospel music. Saints, listen, it's been a long time coming, but we knew a change would come. We thank God for allowing him to have longevity, and we want to honor him on October 31st. Mark your calendar. Yes, October 31st. We will have 3 different special tributes that will occur on that day. At the 11:30 worship experience, the E. Zion Fair Baptist Church will give its tribute, where our choirs and our praise teams will be singing the songs and giving tribute to Jay Codwell. Then at 2 o'clock, we'll all go over to Newcastle Avenue and Piles Lane, and we will change that street from Piles Lane to Jay Codwell Lane. And at 4 p.m., yes, the quartets will do their tribute, and it's going to be on. We have so many people already confirming. We have what I consider to be some of the top elite groups in the quartet field. Keith Wonderboy is coming. We have the Nightingales, they are coming, and we also have the Brooklyn All-Stars. If I were you, I would get my tickets early. This is the only ticketed affair. Tickets are $10. If you want VIP seating, it's $20. But Saints, at the end of the day, we will be celebrating America's legend, Jay Codwell.
And we're back. Well, Kobe, we're at this part of the show that I really do enjoy. I'm starting to like the silent storm too, but I really enjoy your segment of the show, because you give us some enlightenment on perspectives and things that we don't ordinarily have. So, just tell us what's on your mind today.
Yeah, so, first up is the Build Back Better Act. Those negotiations have been going on for a while now. Unfortunately, it looks like it's going to get cut yet again. So again, this plan that President Biden had to this new, biggest spending bill since the New Deal, right? And really looking at environmental, racial justice, looking at how we can really help communities, is yet again being cut because of Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema.
Yeah.
So where it's at right now, as of Tuesday, they're in negotiations, but it looks like the number that started at 10 trillion, not thousand, trillion.
Yeah.
Trillion.
Yeah.
That went to 3.5 trillion is now going to come down to 2.5 trillion. And it is probably, honestly, at this point, it's probably going to become lower. Manchin last summer, or not earlier this summer, said that he was comfortable around 1.5 trillion, which is horrible, right? Yeah. Maybe they could get him up from that number to like 1.9 to 2.2 trillion. But what's going on right now, Biden has rolled out these plans, childcare, universal childcare, racial equity, climate corps, to address some of our pressing needs that just have to be funded. With what's going to happen now, you're probably going to see Congress be faced with two decisions. One, do you keep all the programs and just fund them short term? Or two, do you cut some of those programs, which haven't been implemented yet, so you're not taking anything away from people, but fund the ones that you keep longer term? Now, for me, and being, from a smaller state, it's better if it's funded longer term, right? So we have less programs, but those programs we do have are funded for the next 20 years or something like that. That takes away, after about 5 years, you have a dependency level. And once you have that, then people will expect that program to be there. So if it's not, either the state's gonna have to cut it or the state's gonna have to find funding for it, which always leads to other things getting cut. So I would rather them do that for a longer term than have a bunch of programs for a short term. But again, Manchin has consistently said he only wants 1.5. Now they've worked on deals with him for infrastructure, and now this, and he's still, threatening to leave the party. That he leaked, and then he said, "Oh no, that wasn't true." As negotiation tactics to get his way with this, which is very sad because West Virginia, as a state that I've been in for a long time, I organized down there. It's a state that can use a lot of these programs. It's hurting and needs a new rejuvenation when it comes to their economy down there. So he is going against his own base. And then Kristen Sinema, again, she just refuses to support this initiative.
Yeah, and thank you for that. And before you move to your next item, I do want to say to those of you who are watching us, please be mindful and careful. Some of the monies that we all got during the pandemic, some of the funds they gave for children with the child tax credits and things of that nature, if you don't have the children for real, please do not find yourself one of the people who will find themselves in jail or arrested because of the IRS will come after you. I bring that as a warning today because I was away in a conference and we were sitting around having a conversation, and one of the persons that were there was an IRS person, and they had shared how they are behind and they backlogged and they have not done any audits, but they are finding that there's a lot of fraud in people claiming children, people claiming different things, businesses claiming payrolls and things of that nature, and they did not use the money for that purpose, but because no one has said anything, you think it's going to be a bygone. Please, please walk in integrity, because the people that will be affected the worst will be us, because we don't have the lawyers to scheme and scam and make things happen. So I beg you to please take that as Kobe was just talking. I thought about that. I want to make sure that you're safe. If you don't have the children, don't claim it. Don't buy some child's social security number so that you can claim them, and then all of a sudden you find yourself in some real serious deep troubles. When the IRS look for you, they will find you, and when they find you, they will arrest you. So it's important that you pay attention. I'm sorry about that, Corey.
No, they're coming for you too.
Yes, yeah.
It's a little harder with the child tax credit, but a lot of people are going to be underwater because of the payday protection loans that they filed for.
Yeah.
And, a lot of people got new cars and everything during the pandemic, felt they were balling. But next, I also want to talk about a trial that's going on right now. So a part of the civil uprising that we saw last year, there was 3 main names: George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and Ahmaud Arbery. In Georgia right now, there is the trial has started for Travis and George McMichael, who were the father and son who actually killed him, and then their neighbor who videotaped the whole incident, William Bryan. And the residents there have been speaking out. They had a rally. They talked about they're seeking accountability, that this isn't justice, it's accountability for their actions, which was very true, what you heard a lot during the trial of Derek Chauvin.
Okay.
But all eyes are on the jury. Right? This jury, which is made up of their peers, will have a say in whether these men are guilty or not.
Right.
But it's so much more than just guilty or not guilty. If they are not found guilty of their actions, which we saw on tape, of them chasing a black man down, corralling him up and killing him after he was just trying to get away from them.
Right.
They're not officers or anything. You are going to see the nation light up in fire because a not guilty verdict means our lives don't matter. And that's how the residents feel. That's the bottom line. That's how the residents feel. That's how Black Americans feel.
And can I just say to those of you politicians or you can say community servants who are watching us, don't call for support when many things that we who are trying to help make Black lives matter, you just overlook. You just play your politics. That's why I didn't show up for the last group round, and I'm not going to show up again because we have to pay attention to that. Is serious.
Yep.
And that is so serious because it is likelihood that it could happen.
Yep. And here's the thing. This is our criminal justice system on trial here.
Yeah.
Will these white defendants be let go because they made a mistake is always seen that they get, right? Well, everyone makes mistakes. Don't get me wrong. But this wasn't a mistake.
It was not a
This
mistake.
was murder.
A friend we have. Hey, Delaware and E. Zion Fair Baptist Church, it's that time, yes, for the E. Zion Fair Baptist Church to honor and give tribute to our own elder, J. Codwell. He is a trendsetter, torch bearer, and trailblazer of Delaware for quartet gospel music. Saints, listen, it's been a long time coming, but we knew a change would come. We thank God for allowing him to have longevity, and we want to honor him on October 31st. Mark your calendar. Yes, October 31st. We will have 3 different special tributes that will occur on that day. At the 11:30 worship experience, the E. Zion Fair Baptist Church will give its tribute, where our choirs and our praise teams will be singing the songs and giving tribute to J. Codwell. Then at 2 o'clock, we'll all go over to Newcastle Avenue and Piles Lane, and we will change that street from Piles Lane to J. Codwell Lane. And at 4 p.m., yes, the quartets will do their tribute, and it's going to be on. We have so many people already confirming. We have what I consider to be some of the top elite groups in the quartet field. Keith Wonderboy is coming. We have the Nightingales, they are coming, and we also have the Brooklyn All-Stars. If I were you, I would get my tickets early. This is the only ticketed affair. Tickets are $10. If you want VIP seating, it's $20. But Saints, at the end of the day, we will be celebrating America's legend, J. Codwell.
Yeah, it's just so much going on, Brother Kobe, and we hope that people will take serious. And I see Manchin, who's in one of the areas that they do need climate issues, is blocking a lot of these legislations and things that we want to get moving. We're getting ready to leave you today, and we really appreciate the time that you all have allowed us to be in your living rooms, into your kitchen, as well as into your cars, and maybe by your phone, wherever you may be sitting in the doctor's office. But we want to make sure you understand, as we talk, we moved into a new segment, and that is the whole silent storm segment. I just want to recapitulate and just reiterate with all of you that we're going to bring the information to you. I want you to call people, share our video. For those of you watching us by YouTube, those of you watching us on channel 28, share this information and have people to start subscribing to our YouTube channel, which is at E. Zion Fair Baptist Church. And the reason why I want to do that is because we're getting ready to start sharing information, and we want you to know that there's other resources. Our media is controlled by one group of people. We don't confess to be the CNN or the ABC of the world, but I'm going to give you, and we're going to make sure we give you the facts. We are discovering, I mean, had they not poked the bear that was sleeping, now I'm awake. I think I would have never known some of the things that had just occurred in City Council. But we're going to share as we are learning and getting more information. I want you to share with other people, to please look at the information we have and challenge it. if you find that we are wrong, come on the show. And we're not going to be like, I call Don Lemon one who, if you don't agree with him, he just kind of like cuts you off. I like him, but that's how he does. No, I'm more of a Chris Cuomo. If you don't agree with what we're saying, don't talk out in the street. Come here and we'll give you a forum to be able to share your facts. But what we will not do is argue things that are not truth and is not factual. So we thank you so much for the time that you've shared with us today, and I appreciate you so very much. Kobe, is there anything else you have for you before we go?
Yeah, no, thank y'all so much for tuning in and watching. Make sure you please share, tag us, and, continue to get the word out there. We're here to be a resource and a source for you.
Yeah. Well, thank you. This is Dr. Curry.
This is Kobe Owens.
And until the next time, see ya.
Take care, y'all.